National divorce. That one always gets a bit of pushback whenever I bring it up. And look, everyone knows what I've said about it. I've said it 1,000 times. We shouldn't be living together. We are a couple with nothing in common now, and all we do is throw things at each other and get the cops called on us now. I'm not naive. I don't think it's going to happen, at least not the way I want it, but it's something that's made its way into the national consciousness. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman, yesterday, quote, "We need a national divorce," and she goes on to talk about separation between red and blue states. I don't know. I want to hear what Liz Wheeler has to say about it. Maybe she'll yell at me. Joining me now, the great Liz Wheeler of the awesome Liz Wheeler Show, which you can watch right here on the FirstTV. Liz, I don't want to live around these people. I want a divorce.
I know, when you said that I would yell at you, it actually made me laugh because I was in my head when you were giving the introduction, I was deciding what the most polite way to completely disagree with you was. Because I think a national divorce is a terrible idea for a couple of reasons. Hear me out here. First of all, and I don't want to usurp your role as the host here, but I'm actually interested in your explanation of what a national divorce is. Is this something that entails a civil war? Is this something where we just, where people that are Republican move to red states, people that are liberal move to blue states? What does this actually look like? Because I don't foresee any circumstance, regardless of what it is, that this would work. I mean, do you want bloodshed?
Okay, that is actually a very good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, so I realize we do have some new viewers on this one. I want a national divorce specifically because I want to avoid bloodshed at all costs. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I believe we are on a collision course as a nation where people are going to start getting hurt on the regular basis. I don't want that. I don't want the cops called anymore. I think it would be better if we just sat down, and I'm not naive, I know this is not going to happen, but I think it would be better if we just agreed that we hate each other, sit down, and let's divide up the assets and liabilities. Who gets the kids on the weekend? Who gets grandma's china set? Now, I understand it's not going to happen, Liz, but I also argue this, full disclosure, I say it's already happening anyway. We are now, because we are at least two different societies, people are moving. The numbers on people moving already shows you that. People will not live under this, they won't live under that. We're already separating. How eventually that happens in the end, I don't know. But to answer your question in a shorter way, I want a national divorce because I don't want a single drop of bloodshed. That's why I want it.
Okay, so I understand your feeling here. I understand. I think we all feel the same way, right? We see these neo-Marxists, these communists looking at us, trying to coerce us to adhere and celebrate their ideology. They're coming after our children. They're coming after our churches. They're coming after our institutions. And it's horrible. So I totally share your opinion. I don't want to live in a place that these people have access to my family, have access to my religion, have access to my children either. However, what you're describing wouldn't work because it's making an assumption about the ideology of the left that isn't true of the left. And the assumption that would be necessary in order for a national divorce to even work would be assuming that the left wants to live by their values and their morals in their own homes, minding their own business, and that we do the same. Whether this is next door neighbors, whether this is a different city, whether this is a different state, it's almost more of a libertarian mindset that would be required for this to work, this sort of mutual tolerance of differences, this parallel economy. But we know that that's not what the radical leftist ideology is. We know that even in the reddest of states, take Kansas, for example. What's a redder state than Kansas? The radical left could not accept the idea that the people of that state might want to ban abortion after Roe v. Wade was overturned. What the radical left did is they paid a lot of money to export their lies, their propaganda into Kansas to impose their ideology on those people in that state. We know that it's an imperialist ideology, right? They want to break our families apart. They don't want us to respect their pseudo-family structure. They want to come and force us to drop our religion, to close down our businesses, to celebrate their religion, really their ideology, or else use the force and the power of the law in order to coerce us. So I think it wouldn't work because we wouldn't just divide, separate, and call it a day. They still want us. They would never accept that. That's sort of the practicality of the thing. I think there's actually a bigger reason not to do this, though. And the reason is it's a loser mentality. It's a defeatist attitude. The only reason that someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene would even consider a national divorce is if she thinks she can't win. Do you sit here? Do you think that we can't vanquish these communists? Do you think that they are unbeatable? Do you think that we are such losers that we can't figure out how to counter their strategies and their tactics and their infiltration and their indoctrination in a way that actually obliterates that ideology from taking over the United States? I refuse to take part in a loser mentality. I refuse to surrender not only the geography of our nation, but think about California. California is a very blue state, but in the recall election for Gavin Newsom that took place a year or two ago, there were 5 million Californians who voted to recall Newsom. We would be surrendering those people, Republicans, common sense individuals who live, for better or for worse, in blue states who might not have the opportunity to move away. I find that to be so amoral, such an atrocious idea that we would surrender those people, because it's not just vague states, as we are surrendering states because we think we are too loser to defeat the Marxist ideology. I reject it outright.
Okay, counterpoint. One, I don't want a single Republican in California left behind. It should be noted that Jesse Kelly's wonderful national divorce plan involves a grace period so people have time to move and live under the government of their choosing. But two, I want to get to the other part of yours. What you said about them not letting us go, I've heard this argument before, and it's by far the best argument against national divorce. You're not wrong. You're 100% right. These people are ravenous wolves who would come for us in a heartbeat. You're correct in that. But however, you're incorrect about something else. This attitude we have, and I respect it. I've always loved you for being such a fighter. But this attitude we have of, I'm not surrendering a thing, that sounds great. But in real life, let's focus on military campaigns. In real life, that's not how it works. The enemy has troops too. The enemy fights too. The enemy seizes ground too. And sometimes tactical surrender so you can move your troops to a better part so they don't get wiped out is great generalship. We have a country, George Washington gave us this country because that's what he did. He wouldn't fight forever. Nope, not going to fight here. Nope, you can have that. Nope, going to back out here. Tactical retreat is not surrender. It's not cowardice. It's necessary. And if you don't do it, you're all going to get wiped out. That's what I say.
Well, my counterpoint to that would be, what's the limiting principle on that? I mean, apply that not just to these flowery sounding military rhetoric, which sounds great. I understand the point you're making. That's true in a conventional war, but apply that to the family unit. Are you going to surrender? Are you going to surrender one of your children and say, okay, well, sometimes you have to give up a little bit of the property. You can't have everything. You got to retreat before everyone's wiped out. You would never be willing to sacrifice your wife or one of your children. And that's the same thing. We'd be sacrificing somebody's wife, somebody's husband, somebody's children, because it's not just land. It's not just geography. It's not just boundaries around states. These are real people that we're talking about. So no, I'm not willing to do a tactical surrender. I don't believe that the choice is that defeatist. I don't believe that we have to choose between either tactically surrendering part of our country or losing all of it. I believe that we can win it all. Not every person's heart and mind, but from a legal standpoint, I believe we can eradicate the communist ideology if we identify, acknowledge the reality of it, understand how they're fighting, and then ruthlessly fight back against them. We started doing this in the last couple of years. It's not just some utopian idea of mine.
Okay. I respect that. That's a good argument. Liz Wheeler, The Liz Wheeler Show. Appreciate you, Liz.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.